Orange Pacific News ni Sambula Binaka, Manu France's President Emmanuel Macron has written to New Caledonians confirming he will not convene the Congress meeting on proposed amendments. Local media reports Mr. Macron saying he is waiting for the firm and definitive lifting of all the roadblocks and the unreserved condemnation of the violence. Christina Pettistico has more.
In this letter, the President says France remains committed to the reconstruction of the territory and calls on New Caledonians not to give in to pressure and disarray, but to stand up to rebuild. The need for a return to dialogue is mentioned several times. He says this dialogue should make it possible to define a common project of society for all New Caledonian citizens while respecting their history, their own identity and their aspirations, and this project has to provide future prospects for young people. Macron ends by saying, "I am confident in our ability to find together the path of respect, of shared ambition, of the future."
Meanwhile, the French ambassador to the Pacific maintains the thousands of special forces in New Caledonia are necessary to maintain law and order. A group of 32 civil society organisations disagree. One of their concerns is what they call brutal treatment against Kanak youth. Veronique Roger Lacan says gendarmerie are needed for now.
I would like to give those people to watch the houses that were burned, to listen to the people that were harassed in their houses, to listen to people who were really feared the violence and the psychological violence exerted on them.
Fiji's Prime Minister says the country's drug problem threatens the nation's health, well-being and future. The Fiji Times reports Sitivini Arambuka saying the drug crisis extended beyond personal addiction to impact families, communities and ultimately the entire nation. Mr. Arambuka says Cabinet had endorsed the National Counter-Narcotic Strategy. He says it had also approved the establishment of the Fiji Counter-Narcotics Bureau, an independent institution under the Ministry of Home Affairs and Immigration. In Papua New Guinea, the provincial administrator for Inga says they now believe around 200 people are still buried under the massive landslip at Yambali village. Sanders Tsaka told local media 11 bodies have been retrieved so far, but it is difficult to determine the exact number as there were a lot of people who were not residents staying in the area. Lydia Lewis has more.
Mr. Tsaka, who is the Disaster Committee Coordinator for the area, says they are working with survivors to try and restore and rebuild their lives. He says the slip also buried about 150 metres of the main highway, cutting off food, fuel and other supplies for thousands of people. Shandi Tsaka says so far food and other supplies have been airlifted in, but this is not sustainable. He says if the highway is not opened, the nearby Pagera mine, which employs over 2,000 people, may be shut down.
A US Marine Corps official says the transfer of troops from Japan's Okinawa to Guam will start in December. Kyoto News reports this is another development in a long-agreed Japan-US forces realignment plan. According to the Congressional Research Service and other sources, the plan to move 4,000 of the approximately 19,000 Marines currently in Okinawa, agreed upon in 2012, is set to be completed by around 2028. In Guam, construction works have started for Camp Bass, the relocation site for the Marines for Okinawa. In Aotearoa, New Zealand, more than 70% of surveyed supermarket workers say their wages are not sufficient to cover living costs, and more than 60% of a sample size of 1,500 workers who are union members see pay rises over the past 2 years have not kept pace with rising costs. Only 21% said if they receive an unexpected bill costing $500 New Zealand dollars tomorrow, they could pay it. First Union National Secretary for Retail and Finance, Rudd Hughes, says the coalition government axed the fair pay agreements that would have helped.
With a stroke of the pen, the coalition government has gotten rid of those. They've offered up poultry crops, but whereas the CEPA agreements would have actually made a real difference to workers' wages.
The survey showed 69% of supermarket workers had considered quitting in the past 2 years. In world news, US President Joe Biden is set to announce a new policy that would protect hundreds of thousands of undocumented spouses of US citizens from deportation. The action will apply to those who have been in the country for at least 10 years and will allow them to work in the US legally. It marks the most significant relief program for undocumented migrants already in the US since the Obama administration announced the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA, in 2012. The White House believes more than 500,000 spouses of US citizens will benefit, in addition to 50,000 young people under 21 whose parent is married to an American citizen. The International Organization for Migration says nearly 600,000 people have now been displaced by gang violence in Haiti, a 60% increase since March. The UN agency says it's a direct consequence of years of spiraling conflict between armed gangs. The BBC's Brian Bull reports.
The International Organization for Migration says violence in Haiti has exploded since February, with the worst affected areas in and around the capital, Port-au-Prince. The agency says armed groups have created an effective siege of the city, and that since March, the number of people who've fled to neighboring provinces has doubled to 250,000, adding to tensions over scarce resources. A new Prime Minister, Gary Conille, was appointed 2 weeks ago to help restore order, but the deployment of a long-promised Kenyan-led police force to Haiti has been continually delayed.
Former New Zealand Prime Minister Helen Clark says international leaders need to act now to ensure the world is prepared for the next pandemic or risk another extremely deadly outbreak. Ms. Clark co-chairs the Independent Panel for Pandemic Preparedness and Response and has released a new report warning not enough action is being taken globally to prepare for future pandemics. She told RNZ Morning Report that this is a moment in time that needs to be harnessed by leaders while the memories of the COVID-19 pandemic are still fresh. Otherwise, the world will be ill-equipped for the next pandemic. She says any one disease can unpredictably spread quickly and countries need to be ready. In sports, Solomon Islands has been eliminated from the OFC Nations Cup after going down to defending champions New Zealand 3-0. Solomon Islands had also lost their first Group A match to Vanuatu. New Zealand and Vanuatu are guaranteed semi-final spots. The tournament continues today with Group B games, PNG against Tahiti and Samoa facing Fiji. Leading athletes are warning that intense heat at the Paris Olympics and Paralympics this summer can put competitors in dangerous situations. 11 Olympians have been looking at potential threats with climate scientists and leading heat psychologists. Here's BBC's Laura Scott.
In this report called Rings of Fire, there are stark warnings about the risks that athletes could face at this summer's games because of rising temperatures. The authors from the non-profit group Climate Central say that since the last Olympics in France in 1924, average temperatures in Paris during July and August have risen by 3.1 Celsius. The president of World Athletics, Lord Coe, said the impacts range from disruption to sleep and late changes to event timings to heat-related stress and injury.
And that's your latest RNZ Pacific News and Sport. For more stories, go to rnz.co.nz/Pacific.
Hello, Salava. This is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susanna Suzuki. Coming up, the rift among New Caledonia's pro-independence group widens. Also,
As we're looking into the past and celebrating that, we're also thinking about the future.
Pacific youth that called to step up and take care of the region, and
Trying to stay culturally grounded, but also make sense of it here in New Zealand.
our service to our families come at a cost.